Correct.
That was tough.
We struggle so much. Okay.
Sarah.
Yeah, that's right. It is that.
But we don't give up.
So let's settle our minds with our bodies sitting here. Really let go of whatever else you did today. Let go of planning for later. And just experience what's happening right this moment. Notice if your body's holding any tension. And let your breath ease any spots of tension. In a film by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, wisdom, what is it? Wisdom in, what is it called? Wisdom of Happiness? The film we saw last night.
Oh, I don't know.
None of y'all saw it, and I'm forgetting. But anyway, but His Holiness kept throughout it, he would just occasionally say, we need to breathe or inhale, stop, remain with that inhale, and then exhale. And most of us know that this is a tool to calm the mind, relax the body, but we forget to do it periodically through the day. And it's a good method for just noticing what's going on with your body and your mind in that moment. And of course, whenever you feel the slightest bit irritated or agitated or just off, it's excellent to do a very brief breathing practice. Now think about the reason you show up to class. And try to set a positive intention to use this time well. And combine it with a wish that it not just benefit yourself, but that it will ripple out to benefit those around you. Let's start with the 7-limb prayer. If you could use the mouse, or maybe, I don't know, it's hidden on my screen.
I'm gonna get,
You go up to that little dash in the upper left corner of the pictures above each of us.
the dash, to minimize it, if you go into the.
You go,
right
yep,
there,
you see
the
that
line.
dash?
Yeah.
There we go.
And-
That's it.
Okay. That stays there.
Just let go of the mouse. It's very important to let go of the mouse. I swear, if I put my hand above my tablet these days for just even, for any length of time, all of a sudden, it's like it activates something, I don't have to touch it. It's just the heat from my hand. They're getting too good. Okay, so reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. Dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. If you don't know what to do in a daily practice, if you take this prayer and meditate on each of these lines, you prostrate, you do actually do prostrations, then bring up to mind why you want to show respect to the teachings of the 3 jewels. Then making offerings. So hopefully you've set out some offerings, even if it's just one water bowl or just your breakfast. I mean, that's what a lot of monks do. They just put whatever they're about to eat for breakfast on their altar and offer it before they eat their breakfast. Cups of tea, stuff like that. It's always good because we should offer the first bite of any meal, any beverage, offer it. So
But that's without putting it on the altar, just when you're gonna eat, you offer the first bite, right?
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, never miss an opportunity to offer. And then, confessing negativities and rejoicing in merits. This can be just a really, this is like a guideline to important elements of every daily practice, and then the please remain until the end of cyclic existence is basically what you're asking at the end when you're dedicated, the long life of His Holiness, the long life prayer, those kind of prayers. And you're asking them to teach. That's what the wheel of Dharma is. Please teach. And you always dedicate it, any positive things, to the benefit to others. And if you look at things like Guru Puja and Medicine Buddha, all of them are basically a long 7-limb prayer. They all contain this aspect in the practice. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So this is our last Tuesday night. So keep that in mind. If you have a question, don't forget to ask it. So So Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, if you want to, well, Pabanka Rinpoche, liberation in the palm of your hand, if you really want to transform your mind, it's good, to start each day. I mean, this is the basic practice of a daily practice. And it all depends. If you're retired, you probably have the time to do this, even though you might not make the time. But if you're not retired, you have to scale it down. So that's one of the advantages of the seven limb prayer. You recite that. But is to do a purification practice. In the mornings, of course, the standard is the 35 prostrations of the 35 Buddhas. If that's something that you just not to do or not able to do, you can still recite the names of the 35 Buddhas without doing a physical prostration and, keeping your hands in this mudra, which is the prostration mudra, satisfies that. And then you picture yourself making prostrations, to create the cause to be able to keep doing them, it's a method. And also they say that, if you get in the habit of picturing yourself repeated, like looking into one of those three mirrors, where you see yourself going both ways, that increases your merit. It's just this, idea that you want to fill the universe with you and all other sentient beings making prostrations, and it creates merit that's really easy kind of merit to create. But it only, of course, creates merit if you are, kind of going for refuge while you're doing it, that you're showing that, that you rely on these teachings, and this is how you transform your mind, so purification. So that's a purification practice. So when if you memorize the names, then it's really, that makes it much easier to do the prostrations if you just know it by heart. But also you want to, think about the four opponent powers, think about your regrets and your resolve to do better, and and the practice itself, the prostration practice, is the remedy. That's the tool to remind yourself that, this is something you really want to work on. And then you dedicate at the end. So and it has a lovely confession prayer in the practice. It's the Sutra of Three Heaps, or the 35 Confessions of 35 Buddhas. It's on the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive website. Doesn't require any initiation, any of that kind of stuff. So that's pretty easy to do. And then you want to do a glance meditation on the whole Lam Rim, the whole path. And so some standard ones are the foundation of all good qualities, three principal aspects of the path, things like that. There are also some others that if you have the goal prayer book, most of them are in there. So there's a glance meditation on all the important points of the Lam Rim, the foundation of all good qualities. And then there's a daily meditation practice of Shakyamuni Buddha in the Gold Prayer Book. It's also a booklet that you can get from the FPMT in a PDF format. I think you can just download it for a donation. So, because I know a lot of people don't get started on a daily practice because they feel like they don't know what they're doing. And so it's good to just follow a script until you can generate it from your heart, and then you just, do that. So, the prostrations, the confession practice to the 35 Buddhas is in the prayer book. I think there's a short Vajrasattva practice in it.
Yes.
So that's a nighttime type version, but you can use it anytime. So,
It's often possible.
well, they say Lama Atisha, who brought the teachings was one of the people who brought the teachings to Tibet, other than Padmasambhava. Every time he would do something, regret some action of body, speech, or mind, he just immediately do prostrations. But one really simple thing to do is to just say Om Vajrasattva Hum, which is the short Vajrasattva mantra, and the Vajrasattva is like, the essence of purity. 7 times in your mind. And for one thing, I'll help you remember that so later that night you can do a more thorough, thing. But it's just like what happens is if you use a sincere mind and to regret, it cuts the karma from increasing. So it minimizes how much negative effect that action will have. So the sooner we regret, this is why the teachers say, please, do a purification practice every day so you never go more than 24 hours without stopping the increase. Of course, this is all dependent on the power of your mind. So the stronger your mind gets, the stronger your refuge gets, the stronger your confidence in your ability to work with your mind, transform your mind, the stronger your regret is, the stronger your resolve is, all that kind of stuff. So, and this is how you start. You start where you have no clue why you're doing this or how does it work, but you start there. But so, I find that over time, you start to trust in the process, because if you really sit there and honestly regret some action of body, speech, and mind, and really think about the harm you've done to others and the fact that you've done it in the past, all those kind of things, and you really want to change that from deep in your heart, that's a powerful mind. And the fact that you won't get it perfectly, you can't say, I'll never do it again, that's okay. It's just because you're working towards never doing it again. I mean, Buddhists never do it again, so, but getting in the habit of thinking of, reviewing. One nice thing about doing a glance meditation on the whole path is that these are short ones. You generally memorize it. You do it every day for a year, you're going to know it. May still want to look at the words because you're not confident that you know it by heart, but you pretty much will. So it's same with saying the refuge prayer, all those things. So, and if you've read, we're going to start discovering Buddhism again in January. And one of the major texts for it is Liberation in Our Hands, or in the palm of the hand, or whatever. There's several versions of it. And it's a teaching by Pavanka Rinpoche on the Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the graduated path to enlightenment. I can never remember.
From the left.
Second from the left. Yeah, always open palm. When you point, open palm.
Okay.
Yeah. You never want to
Right.
block any possibility of teachings coming your way. Everything's always with an open palm. The Tibetans are very, very clever about coming up with every method not to block any energy coming from the teaching. So anyway, he wears a yellow hat.
You do like that, like the
To point to something.
Yeah, to point to something, a holy being or whatever. You always do it with an open palm. You don't point. That's,
Interesting.
it's
Pointing is disrespectful.
yeah, it's considered disrespectful, but but it also, like everything, when we offer a kata, we put the open side, it's folded in half, but the open side is towards the teacher or whoever you're offering the kata to. It's so that you can receive anything. It's not blocked, as opposed to the fold. So it's all symbolic. And the more you understand the symbolism or hear about the symbolism or whatever, the more you understand how rich all these rituals are, because they're all including all this symbolism. And it's about just I never want to block access to the teachings. I never want to, be an upside down pot for the teachings where nothing's going in, all that kind of stuff. You're just really trying to keep it open. If you don't know about it, of course you can't think about it, but it's, it's just, it's not about being rigid. It's about opportunities, taking the best advantage of all these opportunities. So, but probably the most important practice to do in the mornings is setting our intention. for the day, because to really think about something we're trying to change. So if you don't only have time for that, then do that, because that's what helps us throughout the day. His Holiness recommends that, whatever meditation you do in the morning, you remember it throughout the day. You kind of go, oh yeah, that's right. I was meditating on impermanence earlier today. So, you really just want to bring it in, so when you have an opportunity during the day, go, oh yeah, that's a reminder. So, because this is what helps us have mindfulness about what we're doing and to remember what we're trying to do, So it's just important to put a little effort in those things, and then it becomes a habit, and so you don't have any trouble doing that. It takes a while for it to become a habit, but it's just like anything else. Once it's a habit, it's just what you do, and that's the easiest way to go. So we're just replacing habits that aren't so meaningful with some habits that are. If you have a strong connection to a teacher, it's really good to nurture that with your refuge prayers and thinking about it, because it's creating a karmic connection to meet them in this and future lives, just keep, so it keeps going. And also the teachers sort of are our substitute for the Buddha, since the Buddha, we can't see a Buddha right now, as opposed to 2,600 years ago when they could see a Buddha. Are the teachers are the one, that's what the Buddha said, as he showed the aspect of dying was, he said, I'll send you teachers, and so that's, so we rely on the teachings because it's the word of the Buddha. And the Dharma is the true refuge, because the Dharma is what we're trying to actualize. It's like, just like, and our resultant refuge is us becoming Buddhas, and that's where we want to go. We want that direction, to where we have that confidence, that we have that ability, and then we see ourselves through our own experience change in the direction we want to go, and then we can feel really good about that. And then as we develop over lots of time, we want to we'll have more and more evidence that the path is working. You'll just, you'll have more and more experiences that are in the direction you want to go. You'll realize, gee, I haven't thought that way in a long, long time, and it's really reassuring. But it all requires that decision. We have to be determined to transform our minds. We have to really want it, just like in anything in life. So I think we have the wrong view again on because we have y'all's backs.
Oh. We don't need to see it.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay. It's the back of our heads.
Yeah, as opposed to, there's a camera angle that's the front of you, so people can see you.
Yeah, it's on the TV there, right? There's one there and then one up there.
Yeah. And then there's, there are 2 or 3 choices.
Yeah.
So this is probably the wrong one. Too bad.
As long as everybody could see you, that's the important thing.
Yeah, but that's only because I have my,
For those,
hello.
for those who are looking at the audience only, you have to swipe left, and you'll see all the pictures, and then you'll see your picture also. But other than that, you just see the chairs. But if you switch over to the second
I have
view,
it on gallery, so I
it'll
see
be-
everybody. Do you have
Yeah,
yours on
just
gallery?
people, I work when I switch over.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up, so I can't really hear you.
Do you know how to?
Adjust the camera.
I
Yeah,
do.
could try.
If you give me the mouse, I'll do it.
There was a time when this is what we did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was the backs. The cult didn't want people to be identified.
Yeah, if you want that. Okay. Select a camera.
That's the one we're on. So go
Uh-huh.
to the one underneath it, I think, maybe.
Integrated.
Yeah, I think maybe. Oh, look, there I am. Hello.
Hi, Sharon.
Hello. Keep a close up on her. That's a.
I didn't control that part.
Yeah, that was automatic.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll go give this a try.
You gonna go with that?
Yeah. Well, if you're not comfortable.
No, I'm gonna move out of the central, so there'll be empty
I
chairs
look
again.
10
pounds heavier, you know.
Okay, that's one of those sad comments.
Sorry to interrupt. We normally on Zoom will see, recently we'll see the behind the crowd, you sitting there, but not a close up. But that's changed, it's fine. You have to, when you're on Zoom, just look at it and go to the left. Swipe to the left.
Yeah,
and you'll see all the-
I understand that, but
All
we
right,
have
sorry.
other
Thank you.
choices.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm just fine. I was trying to help the other Zoomers. Thank
oh, yeah. Yeah, listen to his suggestion.
You see where it says integrated webcam?
Yeah,
and it has
that's
that
it.
arrow. Hit that for a second.
Yeah, those are the only two choices.
It only has those two? I thought there was
Maybe
more.
we've lost one. Or the camera has I don't,
Okay.
we don't know
We're
what we're
back to
doing.
that.
Yeah, well, we don't want you to move.
The most important thing is your words. I want to
Right.
learn by osmosis. The closer I am to you, the more I can learn.
And I don't have my view on here, because
Okay.
it kind of looks silly.
you. Now we are
Just
back to
leave it
normal.
alone.
We're back to normal.
Yes, thanks, Dan.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
That's all right. Okay, so anyway. That was our commercial break,
Yeah.
so. um, So in the mornings, we try to do, sort of a little practice of meditation in the morning's good, but setting a motivation is really important. And then at the end of the day, you want to do, again, a purification practice like Vajrasattva. And if you're not familiar with that, you can do the 35 Buddhas again. And then you also want to do maybe a meditation on emptiness, that simple meditation of just sitting there going, who is this I that's sitting here? And all the meditations on emptiness seem really strange, but it's His Holiness says he does it every day. Who is this self sitting here? It's all about recognizing that we really do cling to this idea that there's a me that's very tangible, that we could, as opposed to impermanent and changing, but really a series of moments of mind and body. And according to Buddhism, that mind has been going since beginning of this time. It's never not existed. It just always exists. We just, till we become enlightened, we keep trading bodies. We go through birth, death, and all the other stuff in between. So there isn't this, that's just not who I am. That whole idea that we cling to, that there is something that is who I am, is a mistaken concept, according to the teachings. That really all there is this moment, this moment, this moment. And in all those moments, as we, train our mind to first of all, observe what's going on there, and then to choose what we do next, we make ourselves new every time, every moment. We don't have to stay stuck. So like if you've watched every episode of Game of Thrones, One night you could sit there and not do it. And that, it's not, we kind of think we just have to keep going with whatever it is we're doing. And it's not true. So sitting there and just contemplating who's sitting here, and trying to find that I, which is just a name. It doesn't have any meaning beyond that. It's a mere I, is helpful to us, loosening our grip on that we exist in some sort of permanent, fixed way, because we do not. We also don't disappear if we do that. It's just, according to the teachings and according to physics, in every moment, everything is disintegrating and coming manifesting. So until it doesn't, so, it's not, we have the appearance of us is static. We don't look like we're changing in every moment, but we are. All sorts of cells are going in and out of, existence. All the trillions of microorganisms that, are actually live in our bodies, die, and, other ones take their place. It's constant change. And our mind is the same way. It's just, so we talk about habits because we practice certain habits of mind. And we can choose which habits to continue, and with effort, and then we can choose which ones we don't want to continue, and with effort work on transforming that, changing that, or eliminating them. Basically, you drop that habit. So it's and letting go of this grip of that's who I am, really helps us be able to be more flexible in the way we think, and more recognizing that actually we have opportunities from moment to moment to choose, So it's doesn't mean we can choose our external stuff, That's not it. What we have control is choosing what we do with our body, speech, and mind. Things happen constantly too, So it's just that only are we impermanent? Everything's impermanent. The universe is impermanent. Impermanent does not mean that it can't last forever. What it means is, like, consciousness never ceases. What impermanence means is that it's momentary. So, like, consciousness is momentary, but it doesn't ever end. We just can't remember our previous lives. With training of the mind, developing concentration, we actually can remember our past lives. That takes a lot of effort. It's starting young, probably. So, it's read a translation recently that had a good phrase, and I can't remember what it is at the moment. I'll have to write it down the next time I see it. Because it can be confusing, this idea of things being impermanent but eternal. That doesn't make, in English, we don't usually use words like that, in that way. If it's impermanent, it can't be eternal. But since everything changes moment by moment, everything is momentary, obviously things that are momentary can last a long time, in the sense of, this computer is going to look like the same computer 5 minutes from now, even though it's gone out of existence and back into existence from moment to moment to moment to moment, because of all the changing particles and all that stuff that I know nothing about. So, and we're just like that. But we cling to things as if they're permanent. When we know this whenever we're surprised by change. Even as simple as when we try to go to turn something on and it doesn't come on. You know, we're kind of like, how'd that happen? You know, like things don't quit working. Well, they do quit working. Batteries died, you know, all that stuff. But it shows you how we hold it as it should work the same way all the time. And of course, it doesn't. Oh. And we hold ourselves that way as if we're static, even though we know we age, we change, you know, our physical body changes and all that stuff. We still think there's this essence of us that is unchanging, that kind of travels with us through life. And the Buddha said that's not correct. You know, habits travel with us, but only because we keep repeating them. So if we stop doing those, they can't travel with us. And I think Venerable Amy is going to teach on karma, which is a good topic, hard topic, always, but always good. So this idea of that every moment of mind, every moment of speech, every moment of bodily action, physical action, places an impression on the mind stream. You know, we repeat it a lot. You know, this is what becomes a habit. You know, we're just so familiar with doing that. We don't think we're thinking about it. It just is what happens next, you know. But that's only because we're so familiar with it. And the mind's really, really fast, but it's still choosing to do that action. You know, it's still following that habit energy. So you know, what we carry with us from life to life is that mere consciousness, that consciousness that never ceases with all its karmic impressions, the seeds, we call them seeds, which are not actual seeds, obviously, they're not physical, but this, we carry with us our past actions of body, speech, and mind in the form of these karmic seeds that will ripen at some point when it meets the right conditions as either a pleasant or an unpleasant experience. And it matches, they're congruent. Our actions match up with what ripens. So everything that happens to us in life are the result of past actions of body, speech, and mind. It can be many, many, many lifetimes ago. And it's not like you're just having those things ripen from one particular life. It's who knows? It's all the condition, all our previous lives, you know, are at play. So only Buddhists can know the whole stream of that because they're omniscient. It's a requirement to be omniscient, to be able to remember all those things or just know what they are. So the Buddha was describing what he experienced when he became enlightened. So he's just describing how reality actually is, even though it doesn't appear that way to us. You know, so thinking about how we fall for appearances, that we kind of go, oh, but no, it's, you know, this really is solid, da 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 da. Well, it's not solid. You know, it's mostly space. You know, I can intellectually get that concept, but I don't really understand why I can't push through it. There's all this space, why push through it? But that's because of our habits. That's coming from the way I cling. The way we all cling. So we manifest this whole world of very solid looking objects. You know, we hold people to be very fixed. Well, I know what they're like. Da 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 da. We pigeonhole people. You know, so we want to every day consider that the way things appear to us is incorrect. You know, the way we think of ourselves is faulty. There's a lot of freedom in thinking about how we're not fixed, we're not concrete, we're not stuck in any way. You know? It really is good news. And so when things are hard, it's always good to remember impermanence, that things change. And even if it kills you, you'll be back. You know, there's nothing to really hold on to, nothing to worry about either, everything that we're holding on to. So this is why regret, doing this purification practice every day is so vital, is because it's cleaning up those imprints on our mind stream so that they don't have the power to produce a result. So if we know we've had a habit our whole this life, you can bet you brought it with you, of, I don't know, being short-tempered, or using harsh speech towards people, you could really try to transform that habit and have true regret and strong resolve to stop it. And that will help purify those past actions from being able to produce a result. So, and it's like we get reminders, because when other people use harsh speech towards us, that's the reminder. Oh, that's my past actions ripening on me. That's this is the effect of my previous past, harsh speech or short-temperedness or whatever. So this is a way to prepare the path for the future of having, better futures. Because we're transforming our mind and transforming our actions of the body and speech. So these are ways to make these habits. And I don't know about you, but if it's not daily or most daily, most days, we lose that. We need the momentum of that habit to make it a habit. Because at first it's effort. It's just, we don't have the habit, we don't have the discipline, so we just have to have a post-it note. Don't forget, set an intention. Don't forget. Just like we do with appointments and all that kind of stuff. Because it's not a habit. We don't have to go to the doctor every day, so it's not a habit. So we need a reminder. Well, until it's such a habit that we do these practices every day, that we work on our minds every day, then we have to be reminded, And just think how wonderful it is when it's become a habit that you catch yourself from saying things you don't want to really say to someone else, or doing something, or rolling your eyes, all those kinds of things. When you start to, gossip, or when you start to say something, trash somebody else, you kind of go, maybe I won't do that, So, questions? Retta looks aside, Deb looks down.
I was thinking, this is a lot harder than just 21 days. They say it takes 21 days to create a habit, but
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a nice thought. It probably only takes 21 days if you've already got really strong refuge, already have really strong confidence. Like the more you do this and the more you realize, oh, I really can transform my mind, the less you can hide behind the idea that, oh, I can't do that. So it kind of starts building a momentum, so it's because some things that we do, once we notice, that's a big part of the key, is being aware, just kind of going, oh, what do I do? And what do I seem to believe, by looking at our thoughts? Then we'll spot some things that we kind of go, that's so not necessary. And those just drop away because we have no real investment in it. It's just some habit we're carrying around. Maybe our parents did it, or maybe, whatever, like the story about the person who cuts off the corner of the roast or something to, and it turns out it's just because grandma did it because so it fit in the pan. It had no other reason. It didn't make the meal better. It was just, a size issue for cooking, So we have things like that. So those can drop away pretty quickly. Or if there's something that we'd really like to see change quickly, it's really important to us because we're really invested in the change, then we might find those habits are easier to make, that you just keep working on because you really, really want it, That's why motivation is so important. You really have to want it. You have to see it as important, So like really letting go of self-cherishing or self-centeredness, that's a very tough habit. We all have it. We're born with it. It's a very difficult thing. And that's this grasping at a self. Consequence of grasping at a self is that we will often put ourselves above others, just because that's what we think's what we're supposed to do. If I don't put myself first, who will? We have that kind of attitude. So we need to, that pervades pretty much all of our actions, because we're always thinking in terms of what do I want? When it doesn't have to be conscious. We're just, kind of operating from that perspective so much of the time. So trying to step back and go, okay, what does my family want? What is my, what do I want to be able to give to my family? Things like that. So, it just depends. But yeah, so it does take longer than probably 21 days to make the habit. So you have to want it. It didn't take 21 days for us to have all our habits that we have. It took eons. We've had lots of time. So breaking habits that are not useful, that are not skillful, that do not lead to happiness, it takes effort. But the payoff is huge. You look at someone like, it's on this film with His Holiness last night, and it's just a teaching. He's just giving a teaching. And seeing how peaceful he is, and just, how he kind of radiates kind of this kindness, and and he thinks of human beings as the human family, and it's just, that's got to be a nice way to live, and that's in our hands. We have that ability because it's all about our perspective, just like the way we categorize people as friends, enemies, or strangers, or friends, difficult people, strangers, which is totally one point of view. Yours. Your friends is your point of view. Your enemies is your point of view. Your strangers are the strangers for you. They're not strangers to everybody. Your friends are enemies to somebody else, and it changes throughout your life, and it changes from life to life. According to the Buddha, everybody in our lives has been something else in other lives. We're all trading places all the time, life to life. So holding this idea of, and how do we categorize friends and enemies? What does that have meaning? The words that they use in the teachings is, friends are people who help us, and enemies are those who hinder us. Those we find difficult. They get in our way. So it's all about us. Even those terms are about us, it's just what what our preferences, how they help us, all what they provide for us. Which is why somebody who you think of just as, you don't even really take them in, they're some sort of acquaintance or stranger or, whatever. If they show up one day and give you, $1,000 check, suddenly you see them differently because they've just done something for you. Nothing wrong with that. We just should treat everybody that way. They are all part of our family. And just like our family, some we might not get along with, some we don't share the same interest, all that kind of stuff. But if they were to fall down in front of us, we'd want to help them get up. Whether they're fall into any of those categories. Does everybody know someone that sort of just seems to be, the kind of person that everybody wants them to show up to something, because they're always seem to be kind, helpful, they're always interested in you, that kind of thing. People like to hang out with people like that. So we're just trying to become a person like that.
Um,
It makes us,
Mhm.
all those walls we build up in our hearts about staying protected, being safe, being, whatever, belonging, all those things we provide for ourselves if we drop the walls.
But it gets tricky because, like you say, oh, I want everybody to like me.
No, that's not what I mean. It's that of course, everybody, I mean, in truth, we do want everybody to like us. It doesn't have to affect our behavior of body, speech, and mind, and especially the thinking about ourselves, because we know realistically not everybody's going to like us. It's just not possible. There are too many different dispositions of mind, But the things that we try, if they really knew the real me, they wouldn't like me. We're putting a wall there. I can't let them know the real me, which doesn't exist, by the way. But, it's, we are blocking exactly what we want, which is belonging and affection and care and being part, that, we're part of a group. And the less barriers we put up, the bigger the group can be. Yeah.
So we want to be authentic, our authentic selves, but we want to improve ourselves.
Oh, yeah, but this whole fad of authentic.
What?
What does authentic mean? It means you think your feelings are the ones that are real.
But I
Well-
mean, you don't want to act in a way that is just going to impress somebody for something.
Yeah, but that's the wrong motivation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what I mean when I say not put on false.
But okay, so this is where I have trouble with it, is that, does that mean when you don't like the person in the room, you're not polite? Because that's not authentic?
No.
No.
Saying that.
No, of course not. So it's treating people as people. They may not be your preference. You might find them difficult, but it doesn't mean you just act like, whatever it is your thought is. Gee, I'd love to hang out with you if you were a different person. So yeah, you want to be authentic. And one of those things that could be authentic is that you open your heart to everyone. You want them to be happy. You don't want them to suffer. You may not be able to help them in any way in that moment, in this life, whatever, but you see them as fellow human beings who suffer just like we do, seek happiness just like we do, and we don't know what we're doing. I just think it's really hilarious. Every time I think about how we protect our hearts, we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to find out someone doesn't like us. We don't want to, that we're actually putting up exactly the walls that will prevent friendship, will prevent feeling like we belong, because we don't act as an authentic self. We step back. We keep distance. We see ourselves as very separate. Part of having a realistic view of how things are accepting that not everybody's going to like you, that you're not going to have the same preferences as everybody else, you're going to like different things, that you're not suitable to hang out with just anybody. I mean, that if you want to have, social engagements, not everybody's going to suit that. And you're not going to suit everybody else's. But that's impossible. And that's okay. But it means whenever you're in the room with anybody, you see them as someone who wants happiness and doesn't want to suffer, and that they don't know what they're doing. So if they're behaving badly, that's coming from suffering. You know, it's from a misunderstanding of how they exist. It's a misunderstanding of how everybody exists. And it's from some place of some wrong belief of like, if I just push everybody away, then I'm safe. When the opposite is true. You know. And as you age, you need help all the time. You'll wish you'd been more vulnerable, had more friends. So these are hard to become, and one of the big keys, and His Holiness even mentioned, we have to have self-confidence. We have to have, trust that we're good enough. That yeah, we need to transform things and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't change our value. It just changes our skill set. But we're all valuable. We all have the potential to be Buddhists. Make friends with everybody, so they'll help you in the future. We're Buddhists. So we just want to be aware when we, if we're closing ourselves off, to just see, oh, what is that about? Maybe from experience that we have people that we don't, that we feel like, no, I really can't, if I go out to lunch with this person, I'll have to pay for them and I can't afford it, So you've learned that from experience. It's not, so it doesn't mean you have to go to lunch with them anyway, no, you just learn. But you don't see them as an enemy, because we can choose. It's like, well, we always have a choice on what others are demanding of us, because we can say no. That's the beauty of being an adult. We can quit jobs. We find our bosses is abusive, we have, and we live in good conditions. That's not true everywhere. But we aren't we're not our jobs. We're not, we're none of these things. We're just, in any given moment, it's whatever we're feeling in our body and in mind. So we want to come from a place of harmony. We want to come from a place of kindness. We want to come from a place of respect, that everybody has needs. Everybody is really, and everybody has stories. Everybody has issues going on. And if we cross paths on a day that's a bad day for both people, we might have words. Yes. But it's that acceptance that no, we're not Buddhas yet. So, and neither are they. That kind of thing. But and that the only thing we have to work with is our own mind. Because it really doesn't matter what's going on in terms of our ability to be content. We think it has so much importance, but it doesn't really. We give it importance because we think things like, well, I can't be happy unless this happens. And that's not true. You can find evidence that that's not true. You'll find happy people everywhere in the world, no matter what their conditions are. And you can find miserable people everywhere in the world, no matter what their conditions are. Because these are inner attitudes. So we can try to help train ourselves to be okay in whatever the circumstances are. So we have to see what our patterns of thinking are. So we can see where we trip ourselves up. Whether it's we have a habit of expectations, where we're very demanding of the people around us without ever saying a word. But in our minds, we've got all these ideas of how people should behave or treat me or whatever, And that gets in the way of our focusing on what actually has meaning to us. Because we really don't have control of other people. And at the end of the day, it's really how we treat others, especially if we start practicing with looking at our day and kind of going, okay, how did I do? Instead of sitting there going, oh, I can't believe they talked to me this way, or she did this, or oh, I can't wait to get back to work tomorrow and do this, blah, 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 you know, all those kind of things. If instead you focus on you, what did you do today? Where are you, you know, what can you smile about? What can you, you know, kind of go, oh, yeah, that was an oops, you know, instead of worrying about the rest of the world.
Your watch, sorry. Beyond my control.
I can't. That's why I wear this when I'm out, because I can't control my watch. I don't know how I can't make it shut up. I can't sometimes. And then when I need it to like actually notify me, it doesn't, you know, clearly. Hence why we don't know which camera to put on. So anyway. So what are, you have questions about a daily practice or anything? What kind of questions you have? Yes.
What about like if somebody who like did you wrong in the past that you no longer talk to, like how should we react if we see them in public when we don't feel like seeing them because of what they did? Like how
Okay, why did they do what they did? What is your part of the picture? Just not specifics, just what is your part of the picture?
I mean, not to get into details, but like somebody who like did you wrong.
But my point is,
Yeah.
anything that happens to us is the ripening of our past actions.
Mm.
It's the effect of that impression on our mind stream.
Mm.
Everything is cause and effect. So if someone mistreats you, it's because you've mistreated people in the past. I mean, it might not be this life, be past lives. So you're not an innocent victim, so to speak. You know, it's just, oh, ooh, I must have treated this person badly in some previous life. So this idea that they did me wrong, maybe they're just getting even, which isn't, they're going to have the consequence of that. It's their karma. They've just done something that's going to cause them suffering in the future, you know? So the best thing we can do for ourselves is to let it go.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no reason to ever treat someone badly, you know, because that's just going to keep that cycle going,
Right.
you know.
I mean, like if in public, like if you, is it okay to just like walk past them, like not
Yeah,
even?
well, yeah, you don't have to, you know, be friends with them again. It's, you know, you just have to you want to wish them happiness.
Yeah.
You know, wish them, have compassion for them, you know, because they will suffer in the future from their negative actions, just like we do. So it's just, no, it doesn't mean you have to like everybody,
Yeah.
you know, or may be best friends with everybody. It just means that if you keep working on your mind, eventually you will see people as friends who make mistakes, who don't understand karma, who don't understand that they are going to ripe what they're planning, you know, that's how it works, just like it does in the physical universe. I mean, it's just, you know, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And the more we can accept that for ourselves, the more that we can see that these external things that are happening because we created the cause for them. And the other people involved are also creating causes and ripening and having ripening results. So one of those is like, if you've got some karma with somebody with this anger thing trading off life after life, means that they've met the condition, which is you've entered their life again. And that's a condition for that, you know, negative, you know, they're going to treat you the same way they were treated, unless they don't have that habit, you know. So it's just, you know, it's an incredibly layered kind of thing. The mistake we make is we somehow feel separate from what's going on, when actually it's interdependent. You know, nothing's happening to us that we didn't create the cause for. That doesn't mean that we should suffer. It just means that blaming others for our suffering is a misconception. We created the cause for it, you know. And when you see Tibetan sometimes, you know, like I remember somebody was interviewing some Tibetan family, they'd been robbed or something, you know, and he goes, oh, I must have created the cause. I mean, it was just like it didn't affect their self-esteem, their self-worth, because they understand this law of cause and effect. They, you know, and they're not Buddhists yet. So we make mistakes. But this is why when that happens to us, we want to just think, you know, and just have compassion for this person that's creating some future suffering, because we're exhausting something. Our negative seeds just ripened, and, you know, if we don't pick it up and throw it back, we're not placing another negative seed on our mind stream. So it's not easy to do, but it gets easier over time, because it's much nicer to live a life where when someone acts badly towards us, so to speak, you know, a body, speech, or mind, you know, because we won't know the mind part, is to respond with a feeling of acknowledging that this reflects some suffering. And just like when I'm suffering, I act badly. That's what's happening to them. And they don't have the benefit of teaching. So you can change that. Yes, Rita.
It's okay.
I'm putting
No,
both your first and last name together.
I was asking, is there anything you can do in the present life to like not have some of the effect from maybe some negative things you did in the past? It's just gonna come.
Well, your purification.
But I thought that's like this life from your mistakes in this life. But there's
Yeah, but if you clean up your habit energy, then you're not likely to meet the conditions for those things to ripen. You know, but no, basically, no, you can't do anything about what's happening to us. That's the result of past lives. But anything we do in this life, so I've had all previous lives. So when you're purifying negativities, it's always good. And any other actions like this that I've done in the past, you know, it's like we rarely, you know, occasionally we have to purify something that it's the first time we've done. I can't picture that, but I'm sure that happens. I really can't picture that, but most, you know, it's like, you know, we are not blank slates. You know, we're just bringing habits with us, and they change over time, I'm sure, because of different experiences, different conditions that we meet, you know, whatever, different choices we make. But when we meet conditions that match up, you know, then that's a condition for one of our seeds to ripen, whether it's positive or negative. So it's the more positive we act with our body, speech, and mind, the more we're setting a condition for positive experiences, not necessarily positive events, because we can have negative events that we benefit from because of our mind, you know. It's just a matter of, you know, how we respond, you know. So like if somebody's, you know, screaming at us and we respond to them with compassion, we might end up having a really good conversation instead. You know, we might not, but that's, you know, I mean, it's just like, so we can't, it's, you know, what we want to, you know, it's like when illness ripens and we, you know, we get sick, if we just think, oh man, I must have hurt people physically in the past, because that's the cause for having illness in this life. And and if you have a short life, it's because you killed people, you know, when they were young. And you don't have to look very far to see human history. We've probably all done that, been there, done that. Especially when you take into account insects and animals, and you know, it's like a slaughterhouse, you know. So it's just, you know, it's just this recognition that anything that's happening, we can use it to our advantage. We can either see it as something that we're exhausting, and then and use it also to feed that resolve to not do that kind of action again, you know. Because we go, oh, yeah, I don't like being spoken to that way. So that's going to remind me that I really want to get less reactive. So I'm not just on automatic pilot when someone presses a button, so that I can take charge. You know, not the easiest thing, but it's doable. You know? And the more you do that, the less miserable your life is, because you're just not seeing it the same way. It's just different. You know? And then, you'll be doing kind of pretty well. You think, I'm doing this pretty well. And then something, that just is a really big button for you will get hit, and you lose it. Then, you need to, it's really important to go, oh, this is that reminder. I'm not a Buddha yet. I still have to apply effort. I have to remember that I have, intentions and motivations and all this kind of stuff, that perfection is down the road, So, so we want to be kind to ourselves, compassionate towards ourselves, and have a remedy for, and apologize to others. It's a process.
But sometimes it's a little bit hard because you constantly think that you did something wrong when you know you did not do anything wrong. And you see people that been through your life for many years, and for some reason they just walk out of your life, but absolutely no reason.
It's from
And
past,
that hurts.
it's past causes you've created. It's not this life. There's nothing in this life that you can, that doesn't, maybe someday you'll kind of go, oh, maybe that's what that was. But yeah, you don't know. That's from past lives,
Wow.
that you did treated someone else that way.
Yeah, okay.
It's the same thing. It's never easy, because it's a process of learning to take responsibility to things right now you don't believe is your responsibility.
Yes.
We think we're separate from other people's actions, but we're all in this together, and we're interacting, and our karma's, ripening, and it's just a matter of how we respond. So it's, yes, it hurts when someone walks out, and that's what you use to purify. That's the feeling, oh, this harms others. I don't want to treat people this way. I really need to, think about, first of all, you also don't want to create expectations for people, like if you really don't have time for another friend in your life, then you don't want to create that kind of relationship with someone, because you're not going to be able to meet it because you don't have time. So these are all these things we have to kind of think about. Yes, Deepa, go ahead.
Is there the concept of like learning a lesson, like things happening to you because you need to learn a certain
Well, not really. It's not, because nobody's controlling this. This is literally cause and effect. It's not like somebody's up there going, they need to learn this. It's just cause and effect. So you can look at it as learning a lesson, and it's sort of like, are you going to learn a lesson? So you just, it's like every moment is an opportunity to learn, but it isn't that someone's orchestrating any of this. It's just our past actions, everybody else's past actions, all interacting with each other, and things ripening, So we're all involved in any interaction, any, even our presence in this room, it's all a cause and effect.
I guess we have a lot of work to do with ourselves because
That's the only work we can do. That's the only work we have.
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing we can control, and it is what's actually causing our suffering.
Yeah.
Is our own past actions. Negative actions produce negative results. And so when something happens to us, like you're saying, we just kind of go, whoa, this really does hurt.
Yeah.
May I not do that to someone else? And I'm, at taking responsibility, I must have done that in the past. And boy, I don't want to repeat this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have
Tendron-
compassion. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
that's okay.
So I just want to use an example of, say, if there's someone who's abusive towards you.
Mhm.
So like, do you think that, actually, I'm not really sure how to phrase this. I don't know if I'm getting, okay, so,
Just take your time.
so if, so in terms of like, I was saying, I was using the word lesson learned kind of a thing. So in a situation like that,
Yeah.
would you, is maybe one way of looking at it is like, need to learn how to be more assertive, or to stand up for myself, or,
Well, that could be part of what you want to do, but also you should walk away from abusive situations. Even if we created the cause for it, we want to see when we're being abused as evidence of how this is not how to treat people. And so we created the cause to be treated this way, but we don't have to just, there's no wisdom. It's not even compassionate to the other person to let them abuse us. So if it's not a big, if it's an ongoing relationship where you can just say, when you talk to me that way, I feel attacked. I feel this way. And try to work that through, that it's not acceptable to me to be talked to this way. And if that can change, great, but if it's not going to change, it's also okay to just walk away. So yes, speaking up sometimes is a compassionate thing to do in a close relationship or in a just ongoing relationship, to let them know that this is, not an acceptable way for you to be treated, and if they, but we can't control their response to that. So if it's a marriage or something, that's when you might have to have counseling, so that a third party can be the one saying, no, that's not appropriate. So sometimes you need help, so it's just, there's nothing that says if you put up with some negative action towards you, somehow that's, yes, I mean, it could exhaust lots of negative karma as long as your mind is quite okay with it. So, but it also, you have to take into account that for the other person, they are creating all sorts of negative karma by harming you. So it's not a compassionate thing to do for them or you. So it's just, we're not here to teach others a lesson. We can't do that. We can model good, things and all that kind of stuff, but there's a limit to what, just like the Buddha is trying to teach us, and it takes effort anyway, so, I was the abusive one in relationships. And I mean, I'm the kindest thing anybody ever said to me was, "You're abusive." It changed my life. So we have to take, we have to understand that nobody's up there orchestrating going, oh, it's time for you to learn this lesson. I mean, that's not happening. It's just literally cause and effect. So when we've mistreated people, that's going to come back to us, So we just, we want to learn how to respond to negative circumstances with grace, so that we don't suffer. So we take responsibility for the fact that this is not separate from me. And everybody's dealing with this. The whole, every sentient being is having their karma ripen. Does that make sense?
Can I ask
Eva?
a question?
Yeah, please don't.
yes, thank you.
I just wanted to clarify what you said earlier, if I understood correctly. You said something like that when something negative happens to us, then maybe the guidance seems to be when we are feeling regret or doing the practices to purify, that to think that I would never want to treat anybody this way. Is that correct?
Well, that's part of that, the regret, that you, like, if so, okay. When
So I'm
we
sorry, Mike, can I just ask the question real quick? My question about that, if I understood it correctly, is how do I think that for a behavior that I've never practiced and I don't relate to. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's violent toward me or
Right. You just have to think it's past life karma.
right.
And so the only response you can have, if you haven't done anything in this life that remotely resembles this,
Right.
you can still recognize its cause and effect just from the teachings. You just,
Yeah.
and you now know how it feels. So you would not want to
Sure.
reciprocate that behavior. So you can think about it. And if I ever have done that, may I not do it again,
Okay.
because you're reaping the reward of that. So this is what's hard, is when we're babies in the practice, we have no clairvoyance, we can't remember our past lives, we're just having to take it from the teachings that anything we experience is the result of our past actions, and so it is when we have some experience that's not something we're experienced with in this life, that we've had any experience with, we still want to understand that it's an expression of someone else's suffering. We want to have compassion for them, and we also want to get out of the way. It's not compassion to let people abuse us. So, then when we're trying to purify anything similar that we may have done, then we just use the experience as a way, like, oh, if I ever cause anyone else to feel this way, if I treated them this way, I do not want to do that again. May I always remember that this is not the way to get what you want, or to take what you want, or to act out your suffering, whatever, you just have to, but taking responsibility that this is happening because of some past action is part of refuge, is part of that accepting the law of cause and effect, and that, and you can, just, it's sort of like, we can, it's sort of like that kind of, like, say you're a farmer, and every time you plant your crop, you're successful. And then one day it isn't, just isn't. And you keep thinking, I did everything the same way, I've always done it. Why wouldn't it work? Well, it's because, some condition is ripened for you for it not to work. So it's sort of, it's just whether, if the causes and conditions are there, the seeds ripen. If they're not there, if they're not complete, they won't ripen. So you can be, a successful farmer your whole life and then not be it anymore. It's called like falling from high to low. People can have great conditions and then not. Never again in this life. Like we see that with celebrities who are, have all this fame for 3 years, and then you find out they die penniless somewhere, with, say, fallen from high to low. That's a ripening of, of some past actions. So it's hard, and it doesn't mean you should feel guilty. That's not, regret and guilt are very different actions. You are not deserving of abuse if you've abused. No one's deserving of abuse. We have to stop the abuse, period. So we don't have to feel like, oh my goodness, but we want to be able to go, this is a terrible way to treat another human being. May I never have this urge. May I never even, may I never consider this appropriate, because now we have evidence of why it's so inappropriate. We know what kind of harm it does. But feeling guilty, like, oh, I must have done something really horrible, that's not the point of this. We've had countless actions. We made countless kinds of mistakes. We've been people's enemies, we've been their friends, we've been their mothers, we've been their children, we've been, every role you can imagine. The only thing we haven't done is become enlightened. We haven't gotten liberated, because we're still under this influence of ignorance, of this misunderstanding of how we exist. And a large part of that is not understanding that just like in the physical universe, cause and effect is in operation all the time, that our minds are part of that. You know, it's not just crops. You know, our actions of body, speech, and mind plant the seeds for future results. You know, so it just is, but it isn't about guilt. It's just about, ooh, sort of like, you know, Deepa's learning a lesson. Ooh, okay. You know, it's the same reason why you would never, you know, just say, well, my child must have created the cause for this, so, you know, let's let him exhaust this negative karma. No, 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 no. The intention here is not to have anybody suffer and to make their suffering worse. I mean, it's just because you think you're doing them a good deed, then that's not going to help. We have to watch our actions and our responses to actions. And wherever possible, you know, we want our actions to be a good condition for others to not do negative actions. And so that's why, you know, you walk away from the abusive relationship. You get them help. You do whatever you can to be a better condition for that, but you don't, yeah.
Tendron,
Yeah.
what about the prostitute that always goes back to the pimp? Or
Yeah,
is
that's a
that
habit.
from past actions?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just the habit of thinking that you know, that I need this person to be safe, or this is, you know, this is the, you know, this is the only way I know how to make money, you know, whatever it is, you know, or that a drug habit or whatever. It's like addiction in any kind of form, you know, it's just habit. It's just this idea that if I behave a certain way, I'll get what I want. You know, no, first we have, that's not how it works.
Is that like a mental illness when people kind of like abuse or they like to
We are
suffer?
all, nobody likes to suffer. People think they deserve to suffer, you know, but no one likes suffering. But no, it's a misunderstanding how we actually exist. You know, that because we live in a culture that says you have to deserve happiness, you have to deserve my respect, you have to deserve, you know, as opposed to like, you have my respect until you do something that, you know, makes me not give it to you. You know, we have this idea that you have to earn things. And the Buddha said, you already have value. But if you want happiness, the way you need to get that is really looking at your actions of body, speech, and mind, and understand their consequences for every action of body, speech, and mind. Every moment of thought places an impression on your mind stream. So when we practice anger, again and again and again, we get really good at it. And it's just our automatic go-to as soon as we don't get something we want, you know, or we can't get what we do want, or however you phrase it. You know, it's just a habit. So this, you know, this idea of thinking I have no self-worth, you know, and then you have an addiction on top of that, you know, we're all mentally ill because we all are completely off track on how we exist. You know, it's just a matter of degree. But it's just like, you know, it's like, you know, the cycle that so many of us have of exercising sometimes and then not exercising, eating right and then not eating right, you know, doing what we're supposed to do and then procrastinating and not doing what we're supposed to do. And so we have the cycle of like getting, you know, totally predicted suffering, you know, but we keep hoping the outcome will be different. Yeah, you know, but we're social animals. You know, some people don't walk away from abuse because they're afraid to be alone. They're afraid they can't make it. They won't survive. They won't, you know, there are all sorts of reasons, you know, they're not good reasons. They're not valid reasons, but they, you know, but they believe them. You know, but this is why it's so important for us to develop some inner confidence that our ability to assess our value in the world is as valid as anybody else's, and there's no reason to listen to others. We could, we can listen, but then go, is that true? Am I really like that? And that might be guidance on things we want to transform, or it might be, oh, that just reflects their perspective. It's not, it's not true. I don't have to worry about that. We need to develop that inner wisdom, that inner confidence that, that we can keep transforming, and, whatever. But also accept responsibility and make mistakes, that we don't know it all. We're not omniscient. We don't, we try to help and we don't know what we're doing, and all those things. There's no, there's not some precisely laid out, when this happens, do this, when this happens, do that, because it depends. Oh, it depends on all the conditions that are there. It just depends. So it's, it's like if you have a child that's acting out and has issues, and perhaps is violent or can't, blah, 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 you get help, hopefully, and hopefully you have access to help, but you don't just walk away from them, because they're your responsibility. They're your child. So it's, so in that situation, it will depend on what's, you may have to take a lot of abuse from, if you can call it abuse, but, it's just like you might have to tolerate a lot of negative actions coming towards you because it's coming from a child that is your responsibility. But there's still a point at which people walk away from those relationships too, because they have to, because it's not compassionate to keep supporting their habits or whatever. So it's really being able to evaluate, analyze, what is positive action? What is not harming? What is harming? What is, it's really looking, and a lot of that is through our own experience, having an experience and going, wow, that's not helpful. And then looking at our own actions and thinking, what do I do that might create this same feeling in someone else? May not be obvious, like passive aggressive behavior can be really, it's manipulative, but it's subtle, it's not like beating someone, but so we have to really look. Okay. What a great topic to end on. Anyway. So none of this is about putting up with negative things being done to you just because you created the cause for it. That is not what's being taught. What is being taught is recognizing that we're part of the whole picture, and that when someone does negative action to us, it's a good time to go, man, I don't want to treat other people like that, and start looking to see if there's times when you do, that you might not have recognized, and then being determined to not do that. But yeah, things will happen to us like that, we can't see any relationship in this life. So it's past life stuff. And that's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah, of course. Really hard. But I think the more you work with your own stuff, that it's more obvious, like, oh yeah, I clearly have done that, and see how things shift when you start working on it and transforming it, and you realize, oh, your relationships are improving, things like this are improving, you're less worried all the time about your actions, or, don't have lots of, that you can see how there's this cause and effect thing going on. So even though you can't remember having done anything, but someday you will. If you keep on the path, you will eventually have the strength of mind to know your own history. So so you'll have the proof in the future. But don't wait till then. Because actually you can't get there if you wait. You have to do the effort. So anyway, I don't know. But none of this means that you just, it's, just go, okay, shoot me now. That's not it. Then that won't help. You met the teachings. You want to use this life very well. So, anyway, does that help? Or is it just more confusing?
Help a lot.
But it's and you say prayers, you try to say, ask for enlightened beings help for with dealing with it, for being able to walk away from certain situations, for trying to help someone. It's just like say lots of medicine Buddha mantras for people who are harming others, lots of compassion mantras. Medicine Buddhist Pujas tomorrow night. That's my commercial.
I was just gonna say.
Anyway, okay, we have to say dedications so we don't lose this merit. Thank you all. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. Another thing, one of the things you can do is when you go, I haven't done anything like this in this life, is rejoice about that. That you may have created the cause in the past, but you haven't in this life, and that's something to rejoice over. So just random thought. Okay, because of all the merits of the 3 times created by me, all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders teaching only Dharma, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma. On life of His Holiness, and the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Oh, other way. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll be here tomorrow night for Medicine Buddha Puja, and Thursday night, and then Venerable Amy will be here on Sunday. I don't think she has anything on Saturday.
It's the week from Saturday is the.
Okay, but so she'll be here on Sunday. Okay.
Sunday.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
meaningful week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You would stop the recording. Bye, Debbie.
Oh, she has this.
Where? Oh, she has.
I'm sorry. Well, I stopped the recording.
Anybody find it?
I can't read it from here. Can anybody tell me if I'm,
Yes.
I have no cloud. Can anybody tell me if I'm anywhere near the recording thing?
Yeah, I got it.
I can't read
There
it.
it is.
You want me to click this right here?
Yeah.
No, I want the recording to stop.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Oh, right here.
You know, I-
This one, right?
Okay, yep.
Yes. Good night, Venerable Tendron.
Say yes.
Yes, okay.